knew each other, and,
That he was mother's uncle.
and he came and lived with us the rest of his life.
Yeah,
And he had a
he was
daughter.
ready to stop the transient stuff because he was getting older.
From Boomville, and his daughter, I think, married a Stretz, and they ran that restaurant over there. So I mean, I knew we were in contact with her, but the kids kind of disowned him.
I didn't get to tell my
He was
Uncle
a-
Mason stories.
He was a bad drunk. He was a bad drunk, for sure. I mean, not a mean drunk, but
My
Horse story.
Yeah, the
A
horse
very
story.
drunk
The
drunk,
white
yeah,
mice.
very, yeah.
I have
Non-horse.
Like a few people I
Is it
know.
on?
And the one about Diana Ross.
Okay, it is on. We're back to Camdenton. What did you want?
Yeah, I wanted to say one more thing about Camdenton, and that's that Mother had that hotel unit there, the 4 hotel rooms.
Four-
That was her job in Camdenton, was to run the 4 rooms at that little hotel.
Shady Acres Motel.
Shady Acres. It was shady. No, it was really cute.
Mhm.
4 little rooms, and that one summer, the Mormons, the 2
Mhm.
Mormon young men on mission came and lived with us, and they were really nice. I really liked them, and they got to give us their spiel one time. Of course, we weren't listening too hard. And then one other story about the hotel room is well, I know I would help. Did you help clean the hotel rooms for
I even
money?
helped clean.
I did.
Yeah, Mother would pay me once in a while to help her clean. I didn't do that much. I was really young. But also, people would show up sometimes, and all 4 rooms would be rented.
Mhm.
And
She'd kick you guys out of
Right.
your room.
yeah, they'd
And
come in the
then-
middle of the night, wake us up, and say, "Move together to the other room. You know, go sleep with Connie. We're going to use your room tonight."
Yeah.
Yeah, they make me put clean sheets on my bed and move out of my room.
Right? Yeah, they rented out rooms in the house when the hotel room was.
Had no idea who they were.
Right.
No idea, no.
And one night we were sitting down in the living room, and it was a lightning storm happening. And all of a sudden, the front door just bursts open, and this couple comes in, and they're really, excited, and she's all scared, and they're like, she'd been in a lightning storm or tornado or something before, and she was scared to death. And they figured it was just the office of the hotel, but it was our house, and they just came right on in. And they ended up staying there that night.
Yeah.
You remember the bum that came and wanted a meal?
Oh, yeah.
And Mother fed him those pancakes with okra in it that we wouldn't eat.
He ate them all, huh?
He ate every bit of it. Yeah, she made some pancakes with okra
Okra.
in it. And it's like, oh
Why would
man!
you do that?
And that same day, that guy showed up and just wanted something to eat. And she gave him a big old pile of pancakes, and he ate every one of them. They had okra in them.
Yeah, that's where you got that idea to use a weird. You would use those
things
weird
in
flowers
pancakes?
to make
Oh,
pancakes.
well,
Yes.
yeah, I guess so.
And
Or down
then
patty
there's the
pancakes
horse.
Oh, okay, yeah, I have another story about Uncle Mason in Camdenton, and that was one time when Uncle Mason wasn't drunk at the moment, but he
He's
just
your
got.
great uncle.
He is my great uncle,
Okay.
right?
He got his check,
He
right?
had just gotten his check. He was on mission, right? And I was out riding my pony Buttermilk, and boy was I being dumb. There was a big pile of sawdust in the backyard, and I had this bright idea that let's see what happens when I ride the Buttermilk over the pile of sawdust. Well, Buttermilk can't ride over the pile of sawdust. She gets halfway up and she falls on me, but it's sawdust, so it's not like it's hurting me. But she can't get up, and I'm stuck under.
Yeah, her feet are up the hill and her back's down the hill. You're underneath.
I'm underneath her, and Mother's scared to death. Mother hears me out there yelling.
The cabs came to
get-
pick up Uncle Mason. Because you and I were both riding.
Yeah, you
And,
must have
and
been.
I was still okay, so I went and told him about it.
Uh-huh.
What did Uncle Mason say?
He said, "Grace, I'll be right back. I just have to go get to town
And
and
get some more wine.
get my wine." Because she's trying to get his help, He's like, "No, I'll be right back. I'll just have to get in this cab now."
He got the
Liquor was
cab
more
left.
important.
And Mother was mad.
That was great.
So
Yeah.
I was
How'd
fine.
you get out?
We got you out anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Moved them. But we did it without Uncle Mason stuff. That was Mother and I doing it. Yeah. It was, he's like, I'll be back.
Yeah. Not leaving forever.
I remember one year, Mother and Daddy were gonna be gone, and it was Halloween, and they were gonna call Grandma, and
Yeah.
you all talked them into letting Russell and I come to take care of you.
Mhm.
So we came and we took you around
Trick or treating.
trick or treating.
Grandma was there, I think, but she wouldn't let us
She
go
wouldn't let us
trick-or-treating.
go. And
Oh,
Glenn-
maybe that's when you called me.
That's
Yeah.
why we called you, because I remember she told us we couldn't go when we were younger. She told Glenn he couldn't go, and he said, "Yeah, right," and turned around and left. And I'm like, "What?" He left us here, so we called you.
Right. Okay.
You drove all the way down there to
Oh yeah.
take us
Took you.
trick-or-treating.
I would have done anything for you all.
Yeah, you did.
Well, that was quite a drive.
For
Yeah.
trick or treating.
For trick or treating. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but anyway.
Okay, we done with Camdenton?
I think so. Anybody else want to talk about Camdenton? Okay. We moved back and we lived in the trailer, and we've already talked about that.
Established that, yeah.
So now we go to the big house. Okay. It's big. 1980 is when we started the.
It's when they built the lake.
That's when we built the lake. The house was built before that. The house was built in 70.
1970, at Christmas Eve, they moved into the big house because Daryl was born in March of 71, and it was right before he was born. So it was Christmas Eve, 1970,
Okay.
when they moved in.
Right before I graduated high school.
Right.
Right before I graduated high school. I
you go
graduated
to-
in 70.
In 70 in May. And that was around Christmas time. Yeah.
Right.
So,
I
And
love
it-
that house.
Yes. It is. I
I
think we
still
all
love
did.
the house.
Right.
I worked
and
on it a lot.
It wasn't finished, yeah. Jay?
built when he was building it, you know, I helped the electrician a lot and helped the carpenters a lot. I mean, the road wasn't built yet.
No.
And those two old guys, Manson and Emmett,
Emmett.
And Emmett?
there was an old path through the woods and through this, what used to be just a holler here.
Right.
And I'd meet them at the road in the morning and take them in there with that International Scout because they couldn't get their vehicles in there when it was muddy. And they were not impressed with my driving skills. And they,
You were pretty young.
and I was giving that Scout all it had too, I tell you, because you know you could do it then, right? Yeah.
And you were making sure they weren't impressed with yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd haul them back in there and then help them quite a bit when I could. But,
Because you were how old when we moved in there? I know I was 8th grade. You were 9th grade when we moved in, I guess.
mhm.
So at that point, you were a bit younger.
Yeah.
So
and
Glenn
we
is
built
actually,
on it for 2 years.
Yeah.
Worked on it for
Yeah.
a long time.
Glenn is actually the only one of us who never really lived in that house. Because all of the girls at one time or another moved back in with their families.
Yep.
Glenn had a closet, but we ended up filling it with Playboy
That's
magazines.
right. And Daddy wanted him in a poker game. He loved to play poker. And I got that trait. So I could, yeah. And anyway, he used to go play with some people. And they played for pretty high stakes. And this one guy had this big collection of Playboys. And
Yeah.
he lost, and Daddy got them all.
Yeah, I found a John Steinbeck article in one of those Playboys.
Really?
He failed to tell us if he didn't want us to look at them because we looked at every one of them, I'm sure.
Well, all the grandsons looked at him a lot.
Right.
Yeah, you'd find them hidden under the beds,
Yeah.
and between the mattress and the springs,
Yeah,
all
they were-
over.
They were in there a lot. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true. And he took a 4x8 sheet of plywood to start with, and it was sitting up at the old house where Grandma lived. And he had us go all over, probably Nancy too. We go to Boonville, Moberly, Columbia, and buy Legos.
Yeah.
I never did.
Lincoln Logs, weren't they?
No,
Were they Lincoln
Legos.
Logs?
Legos.
the
They were
red-
Legos.
Really?
Back when they were only red and white.
Right.
Yeah.
Really?
And then they were hard to find. I mean, they had just
And
come
he
out.
built a model of that house.
Right.
Yeah, he
And he
did.
built the total house, and he had the roof, and
I
it
think
just-
there was some Lego logs as the roof.
Right.
Yeah, there was
But
some
then most
Lincoln
of
logs
it,
in
Part
there.
of
most
it
of it
was.
was Legos. The plastic.
It was mostly Legos.
Yeah.
And it was
That was
on a
cool.
big 4x. It took up the whole thing. And he hired the 2 carpenters. And I remember one time, after I figured out that it was going to be a big house and a big undertaking. I mean, you know, he kept saying he was going to build a house, but, you know. I told him one day, I said, Daddy, I really think you need to hire an architect. And he looked at me and he said, why? And I mean, I heard his feelings. And years later, when we had it appraised and whatever they do, they call it.
Appraisal.
Right, but I mean, not that. I'm trying to think
Well,
of
it's
another.
Structural engineering.
Inspection.
Yes.
It had not moved an inch, most of it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's there.
it's
and
a solid house.
and Daddy had an 8th grade education.
Mhm.
Well, what did the guy that appraised it tell you, Connie? Was it, or whoever appraised it came, didn't they come and tell you that, thank you so much for having me do this, because this has been such
Yeah.
an interesting house for me to,
Right.
yeah.
And you know when he bought this farm though, the Shields farm,
Mm-hmm.
that where the house was a rocky area.
Mm.
That kind of was like a semicircle of rocky area there.
Yeah.
And you know he talked about putting his house somewhere else before Bankhead wouldn't let him put any water on him, and they had to change where the pond was going to be. And the lake, yeah. And so then he decided to build it there.
Mm-hmm.
And he went in there and dozed off and backhoed out the place the basement was going to be. What, 4 or 5 years before the lake was
Right.
built?
Oh, the house was
Yeah.
built 4 or 5 years before.
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
and this was
The
where
house-
the house is going to be built, and this is where the lake's going to be,
Right.
and all that was in his head.
All of it was in his head.
And then later on, after the house is built, he, of course, decided to build the lake, but, you know, he had to shoot it all to the point that it came out right.
Right.
Because the house is already there.
Right.
Yeah.
And he knew where the dam was going to have to go to start with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
make
because
it
he'd
go
already
right.
shot that because I was on
All
the,
those concrete walls were there before the lake was even built.
Because
you know,
they-
when you're holding the stick,
Right, I know.
I held
Holding
the
the
stick.
stick, right.
With the transit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
out there on that big knot that was in the middle of the field. You know, this field had a big
Right.
mound,
Right.
natural mound in the middle. Because I was holding that stick all over the place, and he's back there shooting things. It's like, yeah, okay. And with his little book, writing them all down.
Right.
Yeah, because the house was built in 1970, and he built the lake in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
So-
because
I helped him
Elizabeth,
build that lake. I spent,
Yes.
I did too.
Yeah.
How big is
Tina
the
and I
house?
remember.
How
big
many
was it?
square feet?
5,000
Yeah, close.
ish.
It was built as a 5-bedroom house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was built as a
Plus,
5-bedroom.
plus that
house.
full basement.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, with a full basement, and but
Mhm.
it was. I mean, it was built as a 5-bedroom house,
Right.
with a lot of extra room.
Yeah.
A lot of extra room.
And he would tell the carpenters, I want it done this way. And, you know,
And they said, you can't do that.
that's not right. You cannot do that. And if you waited 2 or 3 days, went back, they were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he didn't give up. He didn't, and he got all those poles. Where'd he get those poles?
Hedge poles?
Trish,
It was
From
that job in Kansas.
Kansas, the hedge
There's a
posts.
Oh, I don't
there's a reservoir in Manhattan, Kansas,
Right.
The rock
that
face.
is a flood control reservoir, and when they made it, he got the job to take out a bunch of fence
Right.
rows where the lake would be.
That's when Uncle Jake worked for him out
And
there.
Uncle Jake, and that's when they moved that cemetery. They moved a cemetery out there too. So-
Because Uncle Jake took a horse and a bar there, and
Right.
you had to go get Uncle Jake. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So yes, Royal, that's a good question. It was big.
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
very big, and it was very unique. A lot of wood. Jay's room was made of walnut and cherry.
And tulip.
Tulip.
And
Tulip and walnut and cedar in the closet.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And
I think
tulip,
all his
yeah.
closets had cedar.
All the closets in the house originally had cedar in the closets, at least on one wall. Yeah. Yeah, it was, we planed a lot of lumber.
Yeah.
And that, what's his friend that had the sawmill?
Oh,
Carrick?
Oh,
Carrick, Forrest Carrick?
Forrest Carey
Yeah.
down at Clinton.
yeah.
He's the guy that he took the hedge to make the lumber. Because when he'd go to these sawmills and say, I want you to saw up hedge, they're like,
They're not gonna do it. It's too hard.
it's too hard. I'm not going to saw up hedge. That's all got fence in it. Well, you know, he found those great big hedge out in Kansas. They didn't have fence on them. And Mr. Carrick, Forrest Carrick, which was his hunting buddy, did it for him. Cut up all that. I mean, truckloads of that stuff because we planed a lot of it.
Oh.